Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Lisaan-ul-Qur'an, Easier Than English, Lesson 21. In this lesson, we're going to start looking at derived nouns. Now, we know how to derive verbs from three root letters. We've already derived the past tense, the madi, the mudare, the amr, and the nahi, as well as we've also derived the passive form of the verbs. Now, surprisingly in Arabic, not only verbs, but many isms or nouns are also derived from the three root letters, forming patterns. And these patterns contain a lot of information within the word itself. That is one of the beauties of the Arabic language, that really a word can express a lot of meaning depending on how the root has been put together. So in this lesson, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to begin by looking at derived nouns for the first time. Of course, we're already familiar with the verbs and the types of nouns that are derived. A quick overview. And in particular, we're going to take a close look at the active and the passive participle. Don't worry, I'll explain what they are, as well as the most important one, which is the verbal noun. So all of these are nouns, we can say, which have the same three root letters as the verb, and they will have additional meaning depending on the formation of the word. So a lot to cover. Let's begin in Allah's blessed name. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق.
On the screen, you have now different categories of verbs which are derived from the three root letters. We have taken, for example, noon, sad, and ra, which you should be very familiar with, which has the basic meaning of to help. To help or to give victory, that kind of meaning. And to form the past tense, nasara, because we know it conforms to this pattern. Yansuru, which is your mudare, imperfect tense. So the action that is not yet complete, and this one is action that has been completed. Then we've learned how to do the passive form. Remember, with the passive form, we don't have the doer. So nusira, yunsaru, these are your passive forms. So these two are your passive forms. So again, you can see how we've derived three root letters from here. Again, these have been taught from lesson number 15 onwards. So please go and review, inshallah, if you're not clear with any of the things that I'm mentioning now. And then we have the command form when you tell somebody to help. So that is unsur, commanding somebody to help, and la tansur, negating the command, i.e. don't do, prohibitive. These are the 6 different categories of verbs we've derived from the three root letters. And of course, you can do that with fataha, yaftahu, nasara, yansuru, daraba, yadribu, samiya, yasma'u, hasiba, yahsibu, karuma, yakrumu, all of those forms. And there are thousands of verbs that will conform to one of these 6. So again, this is just an illustration. Of course, you can remember that nasara has 14 forms covering all the different pronouns. Yansuru also has 14, and nusira also has 14, and yunsaru also has 14, and we have 6 here, and we have 6 here. And if my mathematics is correct, we have now formed 68 words just from the three root letters. And alhamdulillah, with a bit of practice, I think you can do this yourself by now, based upon the instruction that I have shared with you. So these are the verbs, or the types of verbs, categories of verbs that we can derive from three root letters. Now, not only can we derive verbs from 3 root letters or 4 root letters, when the situation may be, we can also derive categories of isms, nouns. Remember, we went through right at the beginning of our journey, I said there were only 3 types of words in Arabic. Every word either will be an ismun, fi'lun, or harfun. Now we're talking about isms. What is an ism? Ism is a word that has no tense. Please remember that. It has no tense. It describes something and it has no tense, which is very, very important. It's a word that has its own meaning. And we went through studying them in detail, how to form sentences, descriptive phrases, murakkab tawsifi, murakkab idafi, murakkab jari, etc., etc. We've done with isms. And you've already seen so many different categories of isms, how they work, how the 7 of them, which are definite, indefinite, etc., etc. Now, in terms of how a noun is derived, the ism is divided into 3 different categories. So this is important, inshallah. Please don't worry about memorizing the terminology, just understand the concept. The first one is called, or we have listed here, is masdar. Masdar. Now, masdar in English, the best translation I can give you is verbal noun or root noun. Again, we'll explain this in a bit more detail later, but it is a word that gives the meaning of an action without a tense. Gives the meaning of an action without a tense. So it does not have a tense, so therefore it will not be a verb. Remember, in Arabic, for it to be a verb, it must have a tense. Example I've given on the screen for you is nasrun. Nasrun al-nasru. So we've got two different words, one with al, one without al. Two basic meaning of that is to help or helping. Now, please pay attention to the word nasrun. Now, the way I've written it on the screen, I hope you can see it. It's a little bit small there. Nasrun. Now, you will know that this is definitely not a verb. Why? Because it goes tanween at the end. A verb does not take tanween. Second thing, the pattern that we've learned so far for the verb is, for example, here we have Nasara, fatha on the three letters. Here we don't have completely different. With Nasrun, we have fatha on the noon, but on the sad we have the sukun, and then we have the tanween at the end. So it is not a verb. So it is describing the action without a tense. Nasrun, help, helping. Okay, that's why we use them in English. So this is your master. Now with the master, it is believed, according to some scholars, that every word is actually derived from the master, which also means the source. So it is the source of the three root letters from which the verbs and nouns are derived. Other opinion is no, the nouns are also derived from the verb, but that is all academic discussion. There is not benefit for us to go into in detail. All we need to know about the master, that it is a word that is based upon the same three root letters of the verb, but it does not have the meaning of the verb in the sense that it does not have a tense. The next category is called the derivative. Now, the derivative, al-mushtaq. Now, al-mushtaq is basically a word that is derived from three root letters, or four or five in some cases. So a word that has been derived from the same three root letters from which we derived the verbs. So this is a derived noun, and this is what the subject of today's lesson, derived nouns. Then we have some nouns in Arabic, quite a few of them, called al-jamidu. Now, al-jamid is solid or stiff. What that means is that is not derived from anything, nor is anything derived from it. Please note that as the definition. So word like hadha, this, it is not really derived from any three root letters. Or here we have another example, farasun, which is a horse. It's not derived from any word, any root letter. It is a word just built on its own, solid, stiff. It is not derived, nor is any word derived from it. There are other words like, for example, qalamun, pen. It is not a derived noun. So we have here jamid. Please remember jamid, it's built solid, so we don't really need to worry about them. We just learn them as they come along. The most important one here is al-mushtaq. Now, the derivative is derived from three root letters, and there are many, many categories. Masdar, some people believe it is the source and everything's derived from it, whereas jamid, nothing is derived from it. So that's all you need to know, inshallah, as far as these three categories are concerned. So when I mentioned to you derived nouns, I'm talking about this category, which we can number here as number 2. So we have, this is the first one, and this will be our number 2 and number 3. So we're talking about derived nouns, nouns that are derived from three root letters. I will treat masdar as a separate category, inshallah. We'll see why that later on. So we're talking about derived nouns from the three root letters. There are a number of categories of isms that can be derived from 3, 4, 5 root letters. We're, of course, focusing our attention on three root letters. And I've given you them on the screen. What we're going to do in this lesson, we're going to look at the active participle, okay, the passive participle. Please don't worry about these names at all. Relax for now, inshallah. And the adverb, or called a noun of time or place, ismul dharf. And we will look at that also this here. And there are others, the noun of instrument, the noun of superlative, the noun of quality, and the noun of intensity. All of this sounds quite daunting, but believe me, it's beautiful when you actually begin to understand it. So in this lesson, I'm going to give you examples of dharf. Let's do a few of those, inshallah ta'ala. And I'm going to also give you some examples of superlatives as well. The others we'll cover later on, but these are the most important one. The active participle, the passive participle, and then the others we will bring. Of course, we will bring also the masdar, which we said is the one that is from which all the words, according to some scholars, are derived. So masdar we will treat. So this is what we're going to be focusing on in this lesson, inshallah. We're not going to do all of them, otherwise the lesson will be long. Later on, inshallah, in intermediate level, we will pick the others up because, of course, they are necessary to learn, but they're not as common as the other ones. So we will pick them up at intermediate level, inshallah. Ismul fa'il, active participle. What do we mean by the active participle? This word we're not familiar with. Normally in English, we don't even use that word. But in Arabic grammar, what we're talking about is a noun that is derived from the three root letters that also describes the action. So we have nun, sadara, which we saw before. Nasara, he helped. Yansuru, he helps. Unsur, the commanding somebody to help. Now, the same three root letters can also give us a noun. So one of the nouns it gives us is called the noun of the active participles. What do we mean by the active participle? It really is the word that indicates the person from whom the action has been done or comes out from, emanates. Also, it gives the person who has that quality that is described in the three root letters. So in a simple form, what we mean in English, for example, if I say he baked, he bakes, he is the baker. So baker, now it tells me the action of baking. This person does the action of baking. So he's the doer participle, if you want to think of it that way. So he helped, he helps, and he is the helper, the person who does the helping. So it's a noun describing a noun, who the person who does the act of helping. He heard, he hears, and he is the one who hears. Okay, the one who has heard that sound that we were talking about. So again, you can see here in English, normally we can use the ER ending to get some similar meaning. So again, the same principle happens in Arabic. However, in Arabic, it is very strictly followed. So we have here the pattern for the doer, fa'ilun. Okay, so this is the three root letters. The fa is the first root letter, the ayn is the second root letter, and lam is the third root letter. So please note, I put a fatha on the first root letter, then I put an alif to elongate the sound, and then I put on the second root letter, I put a kasra, and the third root letter, I will put tanween as necessary. So fa'ilun is the active participle pattern. Of course, now we can do by adding the three root letters to it, and inshallah, very easy from any verb that belongs to those babs. And again, I remind you which ones they are. They are fataha yaftahu, nasara yansuru, daraba yadribu, samia yasma'u, and hasiba yahsibu. All of them will follow this pattern of fa'ilun. As for karuma, it's slightly different, and that is fa'ilun. I will show you that in a second. So this is the most common one for the active participle for the thulathi mujarrad, three root letter base form without addition. Again, quick reminder of the babs we've been studying so far and formulating from them. We've already seen the verbs that are coming. We are now going to look at the nouns also come within the same bab or the same pattern. And we have now here 6 patterns in total. Open the Quran, fataha yaftahu, Allah will help you, nasara yansuru, otherwise the dunya will beat you, daraba yadribu, therefore listen carefully, samia yasma'u, and count your good deeds, hasiba yahsibu, and become noble or be noble, karuma yakrum. So these were the babs, and again, you know the patterns of the verbs already. So in order to form the active participle, we do exactly the same thing with the 3 root letters. So we put fa'ilun, the 3 root letters into that pattern, and we have the active participle. Can't get any easier than that, except for bab karuma is fa'ilun. We will look at that separately. So let's continue, inshallah ta'ala. We have now fa, ta, and ha, which means to open, to give victory. Fatihun. Fatihun is the doer of the verb. Remember, it's a noun because we got tanween at the end. I put that on purpose to make sure it's clear to you that it is not a verb, it is a noun. So the opener, if you want to translate it, or the one who opens, will be probably better to translate it that way. Fatihun. Fatihun, the one who opens, or the opener will be probably another translation. For noon, sadra, please put it into the 3 root letter form, putting alif after the first one and the vowel sign exactly as it is. What will you get? Try to guess, inshallah. For noon, sadra, you should get nasirun. Nasirun. Fatihun, nasirun. For daraba, he struck. Yadribu, what is the active participle? Have a guess. Daribun. And for sami'a, Sami'a yasma'u, the active participle would be sami'un, the one who hears. So we have fatihun, opener, the one who opens, or a person who opens. Nasirun, helper, the one who helps. Daribun, hitter or striker. Sami'un, the one who hears. So you can see here now exactly the same beauty in the Arabic language, the three root letters now are yielding nouns for us. So anytime you see a word in the Quran that formulates in this pattern, of course it can be fatihun, fatihan, fatihin. We went through that in some detail already. But you can also have al, so the tanween will go. But if you see this pattern, you're most likely that you're dealing with a word that is the active, the doer of the verb indicated by the three root letters. And of course, as a reminder, and I repeat many times, it is a noun, not a verb. And the other beauty of knowing the active participle is that as soon as you know one, you can now form 18 words. The word Muslim is also an active participle. We might not realize that, inshallah, when we do the derived nouns, you will see, derived verbs, you will see that it is also derived from three root letters. How is derived, we will look at later. But with the word Muslim, now we can make 18 words. Again, if you're unfamiliar with this table, please review lesson 1 to lesson 5, where I went through this in some detail. So we have Muslimun, Musliman, Muslimin, Muslimani, Muslimaini, Muslimaini, Muslimuna, Muslimina, Muslimina. Then we have Muslimatun, Muslimatan, Muslimatin, Muslimatani, Muslimataini, Muslimataini, Muslimatun, Muslimatin, Muslimatin. 18 words from the word Muslim. And now, alhamdulillah, you can see that. And I did ask you to memorize this table back to front. You really need to know this table inside out. It will help you with a lot of Arabic study, inshallah. Of course, we can take the word Muslim, we put al in front. And what happens? The words with tanween will disappear. Again, these have all been revised from previous lessons. Please refer back to lesson 1 to lesson 5 in some detail. So al-Muslimu, al-Muslima, al-Muslimi, al-Muslimatu, al-Muslimata, al-Muslimati, and the rest of them 18. So we have 36 words. 36 words. So the derived noun, the first one we're looking at is ismul fa'il, the doer active participle. Now you can put it into this table and make 18 words for indefinite, 18 for definite. If you recall back in the lesson we did with gender, I think it was lesson number 3, where we described the formation of gender, masculine to feminine words. I said adjective type words you can form from masculine to feminine very easy by removing the tanween, putting a fatha, and then adding the ta marbut at the end. And of course, you put the i'rab as a necessary on the last word, the last letter. So nasirun, male person, helper. Nasiratun, female person, helper. Abidun, abidatun. Again, if you refer back, it's a very simple step. So we got here now the active participle, which we call ismul fa'il in Arabic, matching with fa'ilun, nasirun, nasiratun. Now let's make 18 words from these very, very easily. So if you remember the Muslim table, this will be very easy for you. So you have nasirun, nasiran, nasirin. The dual, nasirani, nasiraini, nasiraini. The plural, nasiruna, nasirina, nasirina. The feminine version, nasiratun, nasiratan, nasiratin. Then the dual, nasiratani, nasirataini, nasirataini. And then for the feminine plural, nasiratun, nasiratin, nasiratin. 18 words, very simple, as long as you memorize the Muslim table, which I asked you to do before. So you can see how beautiful the language is. You really don't need to learn lots of words. What you do need to do is to be able to recognize the common patterns. And then, of course, as long as you know that what the root is, you can easily translate now. So we don't need to learn 18 words. We know how to form them. So inshallah ta'ala, you can see here, now we formed 68 verbs before, if you remember. Now we've got 18 to add to our list. Now we can form the active participle. Of course, with the active participle, you can put al in front and you get another 18 words. Again, you can see that exactly. And where there is tanween, I'm removing the tanween. So 36 words now I can add to your 68. And you can see from the same three roots, I'm now forming the definite before we had the indefinite word. Nasirun, an-nasiru, an-nasiratu. Again, you can see all we've done is added al. So again, 36 words formed for the active participle. And this is the beauty of Arabic. And we can do that with every single active participle we formulate. Of course, there are only 4 here and there are hundreds of them. For every verb on these patterns, you will have one active participle, which will always follow the fa'ilun pattern. So fatihun, nasirun, daribun, sami'un. Again, I can give you the feminine. You should be able to recognize the feminine. You should be able to recognize the dual. You should be able to recognize the plural, provided you followed the steps all the way through, inshallah ta'ala. And I hope, inshallah, you're now seeing some of the beauty in the language when you can make so many words from 3 root letters, as long as you know whether it belongs to fataha, nasara, daraba, or samia patterns. That leaves the karuma pattern. Karuma is special, and for the active participle, it has a special pattern. It's called fa'ilun. Now, if you take the fa, ain, and the lam as the 3 root letters, the ya is extra. So you can see that here, inshallah, the ya is extra. So we still have our first root letter, which is this one. The second root letter is this one. The third root letter is here. So this is how it works in Arabic. This is how they're numbered. So we have the first, which is fa, ain, and lam. So with ka, we replace the fa, ain, and lam. The ya is going to remain because that is extra. And we end up with karimun. Karimun. So karuma, to be noble, to be generous. Somebody who is generous, karimun. Somebody is noble, karimun. And you can see here now the pattern, very easy for you to form, long as you can remember fa'ilun. So the active participle for the karuma pattern is different than the other 4 that I've shared with you. So karuma, the pattern will be karimun, not fa'ilun. Okay? Not karimun. It'd be karimun. As a reminder for all of us, these patterns that we see on the screen, for all of these, the pattern is fa'ilun. And for this one, it is, I'll just give you the example here, karimun. So only the karuma pattern is different for the active participle. So you can see that here I've written them all on the screen for you. I have here fatihun, which you can see here, the first one, fatihun, nasirun, daribun, sami'un, hasibun. So all of them will follow these patterns. So you can see it very easily, inshallah ta'ala. Later on, at the end of the lesson, we will form more just to show you how easy it is, as long as you can remember fa'ilun. That is all you need to know for all the patterns, except for karuma, karimun. The passive participle, ismul maf'ul. So what do we mean by the ismul maf'ul, the passive participle? Just like the previously we seen from the 3 root letters, for example, fataha or nasara, daraba, sami'a, we can derive the doer, which is the fa'ilun. We can also derive the object noun, meaning the noun that receives the action. So it is again a derived noun from 3 root letters upon whom the action has been done. So the noun, the person or the being or the thing upon which the action has been carried out. And that is the passive participle. And the pattern for it is maf'ulun. Again, please note, as I say many times, this is a pattern where the first root letter is represented by fa, the second root letter is represented by ain, and the third root letter is represented by lam. So here, of course, we have the meme as an addition and the waw as an addition. So the meme takes a fatha, the first root letter takes a sukun, the second root letter takes a dhamma, the third, which is the addition word, waw, before the third I meant, and then we have the lam, which is at the end. Of course, it can be un and in, depending on the i'rab that we need. So this is the pattern, maf'ulun. It produces the person or the being or the thing upon which the act of the verb has been carried out. So in English, for example, he baked, he bakes. So the thing that which he has baked is what we mean by that baked thing. I don't know if that's the right translation in English, that which is baked. He helped, he helps, which are verbs. The one who is helped, the person or the being or the thing that has received the action of help. And the last one, he heard, he hears, which are verbs. And then we say that which is heard, the thing that has been heard. So whether it's a speech or whatever, that will be the one which is the passive participle. So please note that is again a derived noun from the 3 root letter, follows this pattern all the way through, even for all the babs in the thulathi mujarrad. So there is no exception here. So we have here example, I hope you can see. So fataha, he opened. Yaftahu, he opens. Fatihun, the one who opens. Maftuhun, that which is been opened. So please pay attention to the pattern. You'll see it exactly rhymes with here maf'ulun, and we have maftuhun, that which has been opened. So I can say, for example, al-babu maftuhun, the door is opened or has been opened. And mansurun, the one who receives help. The one who has received the help or the victory or the thing that has received it is mansurun. Again, please pay attention. It rhymes with maf'ulun. Madrubun, the one that has been struck, and masmu'un, the thing that has been heard. So you can see they're all following the maf'ulun pattern, and that's how you get the passive participle in Arabic for the thulathi mujarrad form 1, i.e. 3 root letters only, no addition. So again, let's go through them. Maftuhun, mansurun, madrubun, masmu'un. And again, you can see many words which form this pattern. You know that that is the passive participle, and therefore you can translate it correctly. So for all of these babs, the pattern is maf'ulun. Again, we've done some examples already for you just to remember that this is very easy. Maf'ulun, all you do is change the fa, ayn and the lam for the 3 root letters. For example, if we were to use, let's take the example of kha, lam, and qaf. So we put the verb, it will be khalaqa, khalaqa. The one who creates is called khaliqun. The one who's been created, makhluqun. So Allah is khaliq and we are makhluq. So you can see, I hope inshallah the pattern is being followed. Don't worry, I'll give you more examples later, but for you to note that this is a very beautiful, very simple, very easy pattern, maf'ulun. As long as you can remember that, you can take any of these 3 root letter verb types and put it into this pattern, and you'll get the passive participle, which is the object noun, if that makes sense, the one who receives the action. Exactly what we did with fa'ilun, nasirun, the active participle, we can do exactly the same thing with the passive participle also. So we can form 18 words. And again, please make a look how easy it is. And you can see, inshallah ta'ala, we have here mansurun, mansuran, mansurin. And then we have mansurani, mansuraini, mansuraini. And we also here we have mansuruna, mansurina, mansurina. And again the feminine mansuratun, mansuratan, mansuratin. And then we have mansuratani, mansurataini, mansurataini. And again the feminine plural mansuratun, mansuratin, mansuratin. I hope this is not difficult, inshallah ta'ala. So this is another category of isms that you can make 18 words from one word. Alhamdulillah. Now you can add that 18 to the 68 words that you can form from the root, the verbs, plus now 18 words. And of course you had 36 before, and of course you'll have 36 with this one. You just put al in front. So I hope you can see, inshallah ta'ala, there is nothing complex here. Exactly what we've been learning, we can now form 18 plus 18, 18 indefinite and 18 definite by adding al. So we have 36 words for the passive participle, exactly as we had for the ismul fa'il, the doer, and this is the object, the one who receives the action. So very, very easy. You can now add 36 plus 36. You can see a lot of words now, inshallah ta'ala, nearly, let's say 72 words more now from the 3 root letters, which are all nouns. So this is the beauty, alhamdulillah. I hope you're seeing it. For the 6 babs that we've been looking at so far, you can now add 2 more columns to the end. One is for the active participle, the doer noun, and the other one for the object noun. Again, we have at the end, let's do a couple of examples, inshallah. You can see here, fataha yaftahu, iftah, la taftah, the one who opens, fatihun. So this is the TPI sign, fatihun, and the one who receives, maftuhun, maftuhun. Then you have nasara yansuru unsur, la tansur, and the helper, nasirun, mansurun. Daraba yadribu idrib, la tadrib. Then we have daribun, madrubun. And again, you can continue for the others. So you can see here now we got 2 more columns, all of them yielding extra words. So again, each verb will yield us 14, except for the command, which will give us 6, and the prohibition 6. And for the nouns, we now get 18 plus the definite 36, 36. So huge amount of words now, all coming from 3 root letters. So please, again, as a reminder, the passive participle one who receives the action, active participle one who does the action. And that's the difference between the meaning. They're both nouns. Noun of time and place, adverb, ismu dharf. The noun of time and place describes either the time when the action took place. So that is called in Arabic ظرف الزمان, the time when the action took place, or a place where the action took place, which is ظرف المكان. They all have the same form in Arabic. Of course, in context, you'll translate correctly. The action described in the root letters. So the three root letters, for example, if I said to sit in Arabic, jalasa. Jalasa, he sat. Okay, so the place where I sit, or the place of sitting, or the time of sitting. So let's say we sat after dhuhr. That would be its time. That is the adverb. Or the place where we sat, let's say we sat in the mosque prayer room. That will be the place or where the action took place of sitting. It has two patterns. One or the other is either is maf'ilun or maf'alun. These again, please note, the meme is the addition. The three root letters are given here on the screen for you, with represented by fa, ain, and lam. So let's look at some example. Nasara. Nasara, he helped. Yansuru, he helps. Nasirun, the one who helps. Mansurun, the one who is being helped. This is what we've just done. But the place or the time of helping will be mansarun. Mansarun, following this pattern here, which is here, which you can see. Mansarun, meaning the time or place of helping. Then we have the next one, the time or place of rising. Rising of the sun, for example. Matla'un. Matla'un, again, you can see exactly the same pattern as maf'alun. And then the root letters are tala'a. Again, I'm using a few more different words for you just to give you practice on that. The fact that it follows all the way through with different root letters. And tabakha is quite interesting, meaning cooking. Okay, the place of cooking is called matbakhun. Matbakhun, and English you can translate that as the kitchen, place where the cooking is done. And then we have dhabaha, which means to slaughter, and the place or the time when the slaughtering took place is madhbahun. Madhbahun. Again, not all of them follow the maf'alun pattern. There are some, especially from bab daraba, they will be of this. So I mentioned before, jalasa, he sat. Jalasa, yajlisu. Daraba, yadribu. The place or the time of sitting will be majlisun. Place or the time of sitting, majlisun. Not majlasun, majlisun. And there are some from the nasara pattern which are off the pattern, but most of them are of maf'alun, except for taraba, and there are some from the nasara which also follows the majlisun pattern. Example, sajada, masjidun. Look how beautiful it is. Sajada, to prostrate, to do sajda. The place where you do the sajda is called a masjid. Of course, we know that as mosque. Masjidun, the place of doing sajda. And that is the purpose behind the place of doing sajda. Of course, it can also refer to the time of doing sajda. And maghribun. Maghribun, the time of setting. Setting. Of course, we use maghrib, of course, when the sunset prayer, that time is there. Also, the place where the sun sets is called maghrib, which we will know as west. So again, you can see here in Arabic, it is the root letter. Then you take it into this form, and it either means the time or the place where the action took place. Depending again on the root letters, you will change it. Otherwise, the pattern is exactly as it's shown in the screen. And then again, another derived noun. And this one is called a noun of time or place where the action took place. Remember that? Time or place where the verb action has taken place. The superlatives. Ismut tafdil. Now, superlatives in English, we use them all the time. So big, bigger, biggest. Small, smaller, smallest. This is how they're used in the English language. In Arabic, is exactly the same. What we have here is slightly different in the sense that in Arabic is always fixed pattern for these thulathi mujarrad forms that we have. There are some rare exceptions. So it follows the pattern of af'alu. Af'alu. This pattern is also used for colors and defects and so on, but is also used primarily for superlatives. So kabir means big or bigger or old. Huwa akbaru minni, which you can see on the screen, he is older than me. So the word kabir here, akbar, a grade more, older than me. Huwa akbaru minni, he is older than me. So this is how the superlatives are used in the language. So let's look at some patterns here. First one we have is kabirun. Kabirun means big. I want to say bigger. So all I need to do is put kaf, ba, and ra in this pattern. So see if you can guess what that will be. It will become akbaru, bigger. I put al in front, it'll become al-akbaru, the biggest. So kabirun, akbaru, al-akbaru. It can also mean great, great, greater, greatest, and so on. Saghir means small, small. So 1 degree smaller, asgharu, and the smallest would be al-asgharu. So I hope you can see the pattern very beautifully done, inshallah ta'ala. Then we have tawilun, somebody's tall, describing an adjective. Somebody's taller, atwalun, atwalu. You can see that very clearly in the screen here. Al-atwalu. Again, you can see the tallest. Sahlun, easy. So I want to say it's easier. So in Arabic, simply ashalu. And again, I put al in front, al-ashalu. So next we have sa'bun, which means difficult, and as'abu, more difficult, and al-as'abu, most difficult. And the last one we have hasan, ahsanu, which means better, good, better, and al-ahsanu, best. So you can see here, you'll translate in English appropriately, but in Arabic, there is a pattern being followed all the way through, and they all rhyme with af'alu. So if you see that in a noun, apart from, of course, colors and defects, which we'll look at later on, they follow a pattern of af'alu. Just take the kaf, ba, ra, and put it in sad and ghain and ra, which we've done in saghir. You can put it in and make it into a superlative. So degrees, these are degrees, big, bigger, biggest, small, smaller, smallest, that kind of thing, inshallah ta'ala. And these are this is the pattern for, again, another derived noun, which you'll commonly see in your studies. There's 2 forms which are commonly used in the Quran, which does not seem to follow the pattern. Khayrun. Khayrun means better. And then we have another one, sharrun, bad or evil. These are also used as superlatives. Originally, they were on that pattern according to some scholars, but over time it became this form. So khayrun, better. As-salatu khayrun minan nawm. The prayer is better than sleep, which you'll hear at Fajr Adhan, of course. So these are the 2 forms that you will also see used in the Quran. Please make a note of them, that they're also used as superlatives. The verbal noun, al-masdar. The verbal noun is quite amazing. It has lots of application in the language. We're going to just take an overview of it. And the most important thing about the verbal noun is that it is a noun that does not have a tense or a doer. Remember, it describes an action, but it does not have a tense or doer. Whereas if I said nasara, then that would mean he helped. We have a tense also in the past tense. We also have a doer, he. Nasaru, they helped. Again, we have a doer, we have a tense, and we also have the meaning of the verb, which gives us the definition of it being verb. So the word for helping in Arabic will be nasrun, which means it's a noun, but it is a verbal noun. It has the action or meaning of the action, but no tense or doer. So it gives us an idea. This is what a masdar is, an idea describing the action in the verb. In English, it is equivalent to infinitive. So for example, if I said to eat, to help, to hear, to eat small amount of food is good for you. Now here to eat, the word eat is not a verb, right? To eat an apple a day is good for you. Again, here the word to eat is not a verb. So this is the infinitive. Then we have the gerund, which usually ends in English with ing. For example, eating, helping, hearing, hitting. So these are also gerunds. But in English, the word helping, for example, can be a verb as well. So if I'm saying, what are you doing? I'm helping him. It's a verb. I will be helping him. I was helping him. So again, these can be used as verb. But if I say, I enjoy helping people learn, again, that is not a verb anymore. In Arabic, there is a little bit more stricter in terms of the form. So we have the verbal noun, for example, the building of the house began 100 years ago. So the building here, again, it can be used as a verb, but here in this context, the building of the house began 100 years ago. The word building here is not a verb. Also in English, we can end some words with ion, education, submission, etc., etc. So these are all forms of masdar in Arabic. Most important thing is that it is a noun which describes an action. Therefore, it being ism, it will have the 4 properties. So in Arabic, there is a lot more stricter in the masdar, and you should be able to recognize from the form that it is a masdar rather than trying to have a guess on its meaning. So please make a note of that. The masdar, it is a noun without doubt, and it will have 4 properties, even though the meaning of it is that of an action. So again, a reminder that every verb in Arabic has 3 pieces of information in it. First of all, of course, the action. So we have here dakhala, he entered. So the meaning of the action is in the root, da, kha, and lam. And then we have the doer. Who entered? Well, he did the action. We know the doer. And of course, it's the past tense in this example, because dakhala is the madi and he entered. In English, I will translate. Masdar, on the other hand, for example, means dukhulun, entry. So you can see from the entry here, dukhulun, entry. It is the verbal noun. Okay, masdar is a noun which describes the action but does not have, please make sure that it does not have a doer or tense. There is no implied doer within the word or tense. So again, literally in Arabic, it means it is called the original. And of course, it went through infinitive and gerund, etc. meaning. Now, sometimes there are multiple verbal nouns for a verb, and that's common in Arabic. But for now, we will stick to the basic, inshallah ta'ala. So this is a verbal noun. Dakhala, he entered. Dukhulun is entry, just literally entry. That's on its own, means entry. There is no verb implied in that meaning. And again, you can see very easily that I have put the tanween at the end, which you can see at the end here to indicate that it is a noun, not a verb. So in summary, masdar literally means the source, okay, that which indicates the occurrence of an action but is free from any tense. That's all you need to remember if you need to remember it. And a noun which describes an action but does not have a tense. So we went through those points, inshallah ta'ala, and it will have the 4 properties of an ism. So it is an ism that describes an action without a tense. Most important thing to note about the masdar for the patterns we've been studying so far, which again I remind you, fataha, nasara, daraba, sami'a, hasiba, karuma. These patterns, there is no fixed way of working out what the masdar will be. For example, on the screen I have 6 patterns for you, which you can see, but there are actually 40 plus patterns. So the point of showing you this screen is really to tell you that there is no fixed pattern. So what you and I need to do is we learn the verb, for example, nasara, or we learn the verb dhahaba, or we learn the word shariba, to drink. So if we learn that verb, we just learn the masdar of it, and that's all we need. And the other ones we can actually form ourselves. So for example, shariba, we can form the past tense. Yashrabu, we can form the present tense, and then we can form the command, etc., etc. And the noun, the drinker, that which is drunk, all of those we can form. But what we cannot form is the masdar. So again, the screen here, I will share on the link on the description, inshallah, where I got this beautiful layout for you. But again, please note that this is just a example to tell you that you cannot predict the pattern of the masdar for number 1, which is the ones we have been learning. But the good news is for number 2 to number 10, it's very, very easy. Even the masdar follows a strict form. And again, I'll introduce them to you later. So again, this chart, please don't be daunted by it. It looks like a lot on the screen, but it has the template of all the verbs that you're likely to come across in the Quran. I say 99% of them because it has number 1 to number 10. And don't worry, inshallah, with Allah's blessing, we will go through all of them in detail. So far, our study has been focused on these ones. And then inshallah, in the intermediate level, we'll start with number 2. And we will work our way down with all the common ones in the Quran. But this is your template. That's all you need. If you got this, you can fly through all the verbs in the Arabic language. So let me quickly explain what I meant earlier about the no fixed pattern. So to make the madi and the mudare, we know, for example, for fataha yaftahu, nasara yansuru, daraba yadribu, sami'a yasma'u, etc., etc. So let me clear that. For all of these, we can make the madi and we can make the mudare relatively easily. We can also make the passive form. Okay, passive form for all of them will exactly follow fu'ila, yuf'alu. There is no variation, it's fixed. Nusira, okay, futiha, and so on. We've done this already. For the doer, fa'ilun is fixed. Fa'ilun, okay, and fa'ilun for the karuma, karimun. And for the object, it is also fixed. Maf'ulun, for all of them, it will be maf'ulun. And then the command form we know how to make already, alhamdulillah, from the practice that we have. What we don't know is the masdar. Okay, what we don't know is the pattern of the masdar. The rest is easily predictable, and we can do it from the pattern. The good news from number 2 onwards, which you can see here, and until number 10, okay, until number 10, all of them follow a fixed pattern. So for the Madi, for the Mudare, for the Masdar is fixed. This is the pattern it will follow, and therefore they're very easy to learn. If you can spend some time at the beginning going through pattern 1 in detail, pattern 2 to pattern 10, really, trust me, very, very easy, because it conforms to a set pattern. In fact, you don't even need to study them in detail. You just need to study 1 or 2 forms, and inshallah ta'ala, it will become very easy. The only complexity in Arabic verb is the weak letter verbs, which inshallah ta'ala we will cover in more detail at a later course. But otherwise, they follow this pattern sheet, which I'm sharing with you. Inshallah, soon when the website is ready, I'll share the slide also with you. But for now, please don't even attempt to copy it, write it, but you can do it for pattern 1 only. Don't do 2 and 8 to 10. There is no need and there's no benefit at this stage. Just wanted to show you that the Masdar, there is no fixed pattern, but for 2 to 10, there is a fixed pattern. Alhamdulillah, we reached the end of Lesson 21, Part A. Inshallah, I'm going to make a separate video where I practically will show you some more examples and patterns of the nouns that we have derived along with the verb patterns as a revision also, inshallah. So please note these points. Here, what we've done is that in Lesson 21, we went through the derived nouns. So the same thing as we've done with the 3 root letters, we formed verbs. We've all started forming nouns. And you can see, alhamdulillah, for ism fa'il, and also ism maf'ul, we form 36 words. And I've also shown you some others, the noun of time and place, and also showed you the superlatives. So inshallah, these are all fixed patterns, very easy to learn. It's through practice, inshallah, you recognize them. And of course, this is the point I'm trying to get at, that the Arabic words, there's a lot of detail in the pattern itself. It's not necessarily just learning what the word means. So there is a lot of contextual translation will happen, a lot of additional meaning you will get from the word. On its own, you will not be able to do it, but in context, why is this particular type of noun being used in that structure will give you a lot more information. So I hope, inshallah ta'ala, you're finding this lesson of benefit. Jazakumullah khairan for your continued support in watching the video, sharing with your friends and your families. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you with the very best in this world. May Allah forgive all our mistakes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon all of us. I'll see you all, inshallah, in lesson 21, part B. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi وبركاته.
الذي علم بالقلم